Is rent to own a scam? We're going to go over the truths that no one ever talks about. So we often hear, because we have some properties, rent to own is a scam. I see this in a lot of different Facebook groups. I see a lot of people talking about, is rent to own a scam? So we're going to break down some of the misconceptions and kind of just drop the tea on what is really going on with rent to
I
own.
think it's spill the tea.
Well, I'm doing both then today, boys and girls. You're
No,
in
I think
for a
it's
treat.
really important because when we first got started in 2017 and you decided to bring this idea to me and kind
Shout
of
out Ron LeGrand.
throw me to the wolves and I had to respond to people through Facebook and phone calls and all the things. It made me question some of the things that they were, throwing at me and asking. And when you're brand new to something, you're very overwhelmed and it kind of feels like you're drowning, especially if you didn't have like a community, because I didn't back then. You were at work and I'm with 2 little kids. And so there are some factors that could make rent to own a scam. And so I think it's really important that we unveil what's behind the curtains here and how we make sure that it's not.
Right. Great points. So rent to own is not a scam. Okay. It is not, especially when done properly. And this is why giving this education right here that we're going to drop right now is going to help you see through it all and understand if you maybe own a property and you're going to do rent to own, how to make sure it's going to be the great fit for you as the homeowner and for your renters who are moving in, right? And this is going to be the key for us. So for the number one thing, you got to identify you must own a property. Usually it's going to be a single family home, although, maybe you have a double and somebody wants a house hack, but that's a different category. But maybe I got a single family home and I'm considering doing rent to own, or what we call the lease with the option to buy, a lease option. That's technically what this is. So what a lease with the option to buy means is that you're going to have a renter move into your house and they're going to pay rent until they're able to qualify for a mortgage down the road. So some of the traps, some of the things that make it sound a little scammy, and I've seen this before. You have a $200,000 house. The landlord says you want to do rent to own, move in and give me $3,000 to move in. And I'm going to give you 12 months to buy the house. And if you don't buy it in 12 months, I'm kicking you out and I'm going to keep your deposit.
And where do they do the paperwork? And is there any?
It's on a napkin in the kitchen, right?
So that's the first rule. Make sure that you don't do this at a kitchen table. This should definitely be done with professionals. We prefer attorneys. Even if it's not an attorney state, we send everybody to an attorney.
Yeah. And having the right documents that really help you and your renter outline what the responsibilities are.
The expectations.
Right. And like what is next, right? And how this is going to work. So the big thing for me, we always like to collect a large non-refundable option deposit. And the reason why this is so important is because some of the folks who want to do a rent to own, interesting fact, 17% of the population can qualify for a mortgage. 82, 83% cannot. So that means basically 4 out of 5 people in America cannot get a mortgage. So is rent to own going to be popular? If somebody could have this, absolutely it is. And you will be getting flooded with phone calls and messages if you advertise a property with this option. It's the American dream, helping them get closer to home ownership. So what we do is we want to collect what's called a large non-refundable option deposit.
Is that the same as a down payment?
It is not. A down payment means that this is going to be a seller finance deal, and a down payment is going to go towards the purchase of the sale. A non-refundable option deposit means that this is the money that they are setting to hold the option as a deposit to hold this price for this time frame to buy this house. So if I put somebody into a 2-year lease with the option to buy, my renter is holding the first right to buy that house for the next 2 years at that price. And they have a deposit. That's the non-refundable option deposit. So I can't sell it to somebody else. I can't unhome these people and say, well, I'm selling it now on the market. You got to go. You can't, right? So they have that in there, but I don't want to do that anyways. I don't want to kick them out. I love people staying as long as they want. So we collect a large enough non-refundable option deposit, but where some of the challenges are is when our renter is ready to buy, we let them apply that money towards the actual purchase. And if you're ever going to get qualified for a mortgage, you need the first year of taxes up front. You need an insurance policy up front. You're going to need 3.5%, 5%, 10% down going to the bank. You're going to have all these attorney fees and closing costs. Once you add that up, you're probably going to need close to 10% of the actual purchase price down, total out of pocket. So if you collect $3,000, you gave them a year or two, and maybe their credit got fixed. They get in front of the mortgage person and they say, okay, you're ready to buy. You just need $10,000 more. If you don't have it, you're putting these in a spot. So I see a lot of landlords where they make a mistake. They collect too little down. And then once again, how are these renters going to buy this house later on if they don't have a big, option deposit or down payment to buy the house? So that's the first thing that I always look at. Number two, the paperwork. You have to have the right documents and this is what all of our attorneys have said everywhere, is like, you really need to have the right documents in place. So when you mentioned, like, this is not on a napkin, you're not doing it at the house, you're not just scribbling like, I will sell you this house in 2 years for this price. Like, it's really, it's all well documented too. So having the right paperwork is crucial. So when you're going to market the property, everybody's going to say rent to own's a scam, but you and I know how many people have we turned from a renter into a homeowner because of this program.
And I think as the investor too, you have to protect yourself. So this is where education really helped us, is to know that if you apply any of that rent to the purchase of this property, that is different. And so it's really, really important to come down to that paperwork to say exactly where the money's going to and what's happening with it. Because if something doesn't turn out well, then, the paperwork is what everyone's going to be looking at.
And you're going to find yourself in court, and you're right. And the only thing that matters is your agreement. So what you're mentioning here, and you're right on, the second step is sometimes a landlord will give their renter a credit. Every month that you pay, $200 will go towards the purchase of the house. That's not rent to own. Judges typically see that as a form of seller financing versus rent to own. So now if your renter stops paying, a judge could say you can't evict them. You would actually have to foreclose on them. And in some states, that's a very big difference on how long these people could stay there before they have to be removed, especially if they're not paying. That's a bad deal, right? So for us, we charge rent. That is the rent. That's how much it costs you every month just to live there is the rent. And we keep our rent market rates. I know the misconception with rent to own is, well, Joe, if the area rents for $2,000 a month, well, you could charge them way more. It's not like that.
Or a lot of the tenants who are looking to move in, they want that rent to go toward the purchase. So it's just being able to know the rules that you're very clearly stating, and that the expectations, because I think that's with anything, if the expectations aren't met, that's when people get frustrated and angry. And so just being super clear on, hey, the rent is just the rent, and then the non-refundable option gets applied toward the purchase price
once they
and when they execute that option to buy.
Spot on, girl. It's like we've been through this before.
Yes. But, again, it does take some time to learn the verbiage, to understand exactly how to explain it, to know that what you're doing is not a scam, that you truly can help people if you have all of your ducks in a row. And it comes in from collecting enough down, like you're saying, for the non-refundable option. It's having the proper paperwork. And then also, even before the paperwork, it's making sure that they can afford this house, because I think that could be a little bit scammy, where we've even had people that have big non-refundable options, but when you really peel back those layers and you see that their debt to income doesn't match, or it's not going to work out for them in the long run because they're not making enough. They can't afford that house. We
have some of these situations right now. I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a big step to our process, is when we find somebody who views the house and they do have some money and they are interested in rent to own, before we go to signing the paperwork, we have them screened heavily first. We use screenthetenant.com. We don't have an affiliate or anything like that, but that's who we use. And with screenthetenant.com, we set up with a automatic link that we could just text our renters for the application. And then within a day or two, Paul and his wife, they gather all of the information at screenthetenant.com. They tell us that their payment to income works, their debt to income works. They give us a credit check. They give us a background check. I mean, we know exactly who's moving in. We know all of the things that are going on. So we understand, and we can make the very best decision possible. And if maybe they have great credit, but maybe they're self-employed and they just need more time on the job, then that's wonderful. Sometimes they maybe just got a divorce and their credit took a big hit, but they have a great job and they have really all these other factors going on. So for me, it's not just based on credit score. It's based on everything going on in this person's life, right?
And I love, too, that they give you an affordability analysis sheet that they should be signing at closing, too, because they are on the right path if they don't do anything crazy like quit jobs or take out more loans or debt to their name or whatever.
Don't go buy an Escalade.
But people are people. And so it's just important to always be covering all bases there.
Yeah. So we find the right people who actually want rent to own. We explain to them this process. They have some skin in the game because they have some money. We get them heavily screened. We have the final meeting with them to make sure that we go over all of the rules, make sure they truly understand that they are responsible for, after 30 days, all of the maintenance and all of the repairs and the utilities. If we're up north and there's snow in the driveway, get a shovel or get up somebody to plow your driveway. If you're down south and you need lawn care 12 months out of the year, because down here you do, get yourself a nice lawnmower, because now you're not going to be like living in an apartment complex. Now you've got those things to take care of. So this is how we set our clients up for success. If they have credit issues and they need help fixing their credit, Paul and his team offer that. Not mandatory, but if you've got a low score and you really want to buy, like, it's recommended, but it doesn't make a difference to me if you do or don't, to be quite honest with you. But then the second part of it is, once they kind of get down to that, maybe we give them a 2 years. And what happens at 2 years if they don't buy it? This is what everybody gets terrified about. Now, I'm not knocking anybody's business, but I'll tell you how I do it. And I will kind of knock their business.
Well, I would, because I think that there's people that, again, give rent to own a scammy feel, because if they didn't qualify and like maybe the investor didn't help them, like, hey, here's my mortgage guy, your time is coming up here, might want to check this out, because I know that's what we do. And if they're not anywhere close to it, we'll say, okay, then
we'll give you an extension.
We can extend it. The terms, right? The purchase price, the rent, everything's going to be revisited, but we have no intention of kicking people out, taking their non-refundable, and like, it's just, I don't know. To me, that's just a headache and a half, and it feels like bad karma.
It feels icky throwing a family to the streets who are paying you well, who want to own this home, but maybe just couldn't get it done on time.
Right. And so what if you locked up your seller because you bought it creatively and you only gave yourself a 3-year term with your seller, and now you put yourself in a pickle? That's something else you'll have to deal with. So that's why, like, with creative, guys, it's not something that you can just like go watch a couple YouTube videos or read a book about it. Like, to really make sure that you are around people who do this for a living and have been through the gamut, because there's so many different little things that can pop up along the way. Yeah.
And that is so true. So it's really getting the right help around you. And that's what we spent so much of all of 2016. I don't think if you talk to me, like, I was watching a YouTube video or reading something, 2017, we hired a coach that walked us through how to do this the proper way.
Yeah.
Then we've worked with some of the best attorneys to figure out how to do this. And I feel like if you could do this in places like New York, which is very challenging at times, you could do it anywhere. The only caveat is, out of all 50 states, the state of Texas will only let you have an option agreement for up to 6 months. So just be mindful about Texas. Everywhere else, it's awesome. I always say check with your attorneys and local laws and all that good stuff too. But we're doing this in multiple states ourselves, and we're really truly caring about the people that we're renting these properties to. They have stories, they have a past, they've got things going on in their life, and they have a future, and I like to be part of that. So at the end of their 2-year option, we don't kick people out. I have some landlords who say, oh no, if they can't buy it, I'm throwing them out. I'm like, ew. Right? Because I don't want to do that. I'll keep them in there.
As long as they're paying on time. Now, if you're not paying rent, that is a different episode that we would have to go down that talk. But no, these are people who are paying on time. They put a large non-refundable option down, and they just need a little bit more time to qualify. So
yeah, and it's a treat. And when we get to that second closing, and now they own the property, and you get the cries and the phone calls and the hugs. Like, I know a whole bunch of them. Like, we could go over their house today. If we were in upstate New York, and we wouldn't even get like handshakes, it would be hugs. Like, so many people have been able to do this, and it's a really great feeling. And I'm friends with a lot of them on Facebook. A lot of the people who bought a house now are some of our renters. I'm friends with them on Facebook. I love seeing what they're doing with the house, and they're planting their garden, and their kids are in the right school district, and they're making friends with the neighborhood. And you're helping the community. And so to me, I love it. So is rent to own a scam?
No. Not when you do it the correct way.
Bam.
Awesome. So if you have any questions about rent to own lease options, comment below. We'd love to answer them for you. And if you're looking for more, then hit that subscribe button, because every single week we come live with new episodes. And stay tuned, because we're going to be dropping another 5-hour live episode where we're going to do more breakdowns on these case studies. So stay tuned for more, and we'll see you later.